Okay. I'm gonna click go live on the stream, huh? Make sure it starts. You're live. Okay, cool. Hi. So keep eating. Don't stop eating on my account. If you're listening to the stream, it sucks to be you because we blew the last of the year's club budget on a pizza, and so we're all here eating pizza. Maybe you're eating something better. Maybe you have beer, in which case you're way better off than we are. Anyways, hi everyone. Welcome to our last bi-weekly ISSessions meeting for the winter term. During the summer, if you didn't know this, we switched to a monthly schedule because there's a lot less people here, so getting turnout is really difficult. So in the summer, it's just going to be once a month. I guess we'll figure out when the first one's going to be later, but whatever. Welcome everybody. Let's do some news, and then I don't think we're going to stream this part, but we're all going to, well, some of us are going to try out a online CTF with some other folks that have already started. Oh yeah, and we have club elections tonight, totally. Right, we're going to do that after news, because that's like the important thing to do. So without further ado, so phones come with software pre-installed. You know this if you've bought a phone, or laptops come with software pre-installed. You know this if you bought a laptop or a stolen one. Chinese manufacturer. I'm going to say Xiaomi. Is that how you say that? Xiaomi? I don't. Basically, they got busted for having what was supposed to be a security tool installed called Guard Provider, and apparently this thing kind of caused more vulns or introduced more vulns than it safeguarded against. The idea is that if you were using it, or if you had this thing pre-installed and you actually couldn't uninstall it because they baked it into their own, like their custom version of Android that they kind of deploy on every phone, it basically meant that people that were on networks with you could access kind of more private Wi-Fi segment that you were on and do man in the middle on you, which is not great. You don't want that, especially on your cell phone. They totally heard that on the stream. That's cool. Yeah, so that's what happened. Not good because you can't uninstall it. So the only way that they're ever going to fix this is to push out a full-blown Android update to all people that have that phone. So not great.
They mentioned that it has a bit of a problem because it used a bunch of SDKs, and that kind of contributed to the problem.
Yep.
And because SDKs share the same permissions as the app, so if one SDK is broken, then all the rest are kind of compromised as well.
Yeah, good point.
So yeah, just a bit of too much permissions.
Yeah, not so great.
Yep.
This one, if you were in malware class this morning, we talked about it. Basically, this is a really good example of what we would call like a watering hole attack, where you infect something that a lot of people download and use. So in this instance, someone was able to place basically a backdoor into a really popular Ruby gem, which is kind of like Ruby's version of like libraries or external or third-party libraries that you would download. So this particular gem called Bootstrap-SAS was kind of built in Bootstrap into your typically Ruby on Rails project, and the SAS add-on enabled you to basically use SAS style cascading style sheets, which adds stuff like variables and conditional statements and stuff to make CSS a little bit easier to write by abstracting it a little bit. So it's a really common gem that a lot of projects would have had, and they figure that the backdoored version was downloaded almost 30 million times. What it was this. So if you downloaded and like implemented this gem in your project, it would add this function to middleware.rb down on the active controller portion of your program. And if you take the time to sit and go through this, basically what happens is this part right here sends as a kind of a cookie, or if someone sends a HTML request to your app that has a cookie called _CFDUID, which I guess looks close to the name of a Cloudflare cookie, but this has an extra underscore in it. If someone sent you this cookie, the value for that cookie could basically be Ruby code, because Ruby is an interpreted language. So what would happen is that this eval call down here will evaluate the data or the code that was sent as part of that cookie and just run it. So it's kind of remote execution via passing you a cookie value in an HTTP request. So any site that downloaded and installed this would have been vulnerable to someone sending this kind of payload to them. Not great.
They did some kind of They first implemented a 3.02
Redirect.
3.2 version. They mentioned that they kind of did some non-malicious things, and then when they pushed it to 3.3, then that was when the malicious payload was implemented, and then like they just kind of did some interesting things based on that.
Cool.
So yeah.
Another one of the parts of this that's kind of interesting. Right at the beginning of this kind of malicious backdoor, there's an if statement that says rails.env.production ? Which in Ruby speak means is this thing true? It's pretty common in a lot of Ruby on Rails apps to have different environmental settings based on what you're doing. So when you're doing development, you would have rails.env.dev or rails.env.testing or something like that. So this thing only works if it's the production version of the app, I guess, to try to hide from people doing testing on the app, which is interesting. Yeah. So, watering holes, those suck. This thing is the craziest malware payload I think I've ever seen. The idea that this malware would try to infect a system and then target CT scans and either add or remove like cancerous marks from scans to try to fool like a doctor or a medical practitioner into misdiagnosing somebody either with cancer when they don't have it or hiding the fact when they do. Crazy payload. Obviously really super targeted. Lots of reasons why, like politics and all kinds of weird reasons you can think of for somebody crafting a payload like this, but crazy.
Yep.
I don't know.
Take out the CEO, talk against cancer, and then somewhere along that supply chain.
Yeah, like maybe they'll quit or they'll step down. Like somebody was tweeting about this and they were saying, well, what if this had happened during the 2016 presidential election to one of the candidates? Right? The country probably all would have voted the other way if they made it look like somebody was just bursting with lots of cancerous nodules.
Or manipulate markets with insurance, like saying more people have cancer when you're inflating that number. Yeah. So yeah.
Yeah, fascinating.
They also mentioned that there's a bit of a disconnect because there's a separation between old hardware or old software and then being not compatible with each other. So new versions of hardware not compatible with old versions of software and vice versa. So it kind of makes things more difficult as well. So yeah. Yeah.
So it's hard to be a malware author, I guess, is the lesson. But yeah, that's crazy. That's the wildest payload ever. Moving along. Oh, the NSA released the source code for Ghidra. So they released the tool at RSA, right? And they said, yeah, the source code's coming. We need to remove all the illegal stuff from it. That's a joke. Just saying that for the people watching the live stream, so I don't get arrested or whatever. So yeah, it's a massive Java project. Like these top level folders drill down like 10 levels until you get to a Java file. I dug through it a little bit. It's well commented, like full-blown Java docs, like at params, at returns for all the methods, really good descriptions. Every Java file has a license agreement. It's all Apache licensed, so it's open. You can do kind of whatever you want with it. Yeah, so if you're bored on your vacation or on your 2 weeks until next semester, if you're coming back in the summer, read it all. I don't know. Write a plugin. There you go. Now you can see all the classes. You know how to interact with them. You can totally write a plugin. I think it supports plugins in Python too. But yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, neat. It's a good tool. It's cool.
Which one is
did
this?
I accidentally close one? I didn't. Nope. Along with that, I just threw in some extra resources. Someone did a great presentation at RSA about like plugin development for Ghidra. So if you want to follow this little tutorial and walkthrough to make your own plugins for doing certain types of binary analysis and reversing, cool. Here's a guide on how to do that. Apparently it's not too difficult. People have already ported really popular plugins to the framework that existed for like IDA and some other tools and stuff like that. So cool. People are going to be actively developing for this tool, and it's nice because it's free, and we like free.
And didn't you mention that's for Capstone? Some people have written plugins for memory analysis.
Yeah.
I forget which one.
Radar.
Radar? Yeah,
Radar,
so that
yeah.
one. So maybe like
yeah, hey,
might be a future Capstone idea.
That's a really good idea. If you want to write Ghidra plugins for Capstone, talk to me about it, or whoever your Capstone.
You all know Java, right?
Yeah, that's actually. I was joking with somebody that like all of InfoSec all of a sudden decided to relearn Java because this came out.
Yep.
This, I guess, has been a problem for a little while. people in Airbnbs allegedly having creepy cameras. And folks were saying some of them found it by seeing other devices on the Wi-Fi or seeing the camera itself broadcasting a different Wi-Fi network. And people were talking about like how would you hunt down all of these hidden spy cameras in a home if you were staying at an Airbnb.
Why does it specify Irish?
Pardon me?
It says when Irish eyes are
I'm guessing either the home or the people staying in the rental.
Oh, it was in an Irish. The hotel, the room. Sorry, the house was in Irish.
Was in
in
Ireland?
Ireland. English is hard sometimes.
It is hard. It is hard. Irish is even harder.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it was a live streaming feed, so yeah.
Ooh, that's
Not great.
freaky. Yeah.
And they hid this. It wasn't very obvious, and so yeah.
Yeah, I've seen. There's been some screenshots of people sharing like cameras up in, like the automated aerosol dispensers that people can get for their home, where like every half an hour it just goes, sprays stuff. They embedded a camera in one of those. All kinds of
In
stuff.
Toronto, there was a motion sensor one where you had the like burglar alarms motion sensor.
Yeah.
At master bedroom.
Yeah, see, that's sketch.
I
Maybe.
saw one that's it's a wall socket essentially. Like it's
Yeah.
in a regular wall socket, and with the USB plug in it, it just look at anything in that. Just like, oh, there's a spy cam.
So I guess if you're going to be staying in an Airbnb, just show up and go to bed, or like just unplug the modem. There you go. There's the thing you can do. Just have it not broadcasting. Bring your own like Wi-Fi stick or whatever you call it. The thing.
Disconnecting the Wi-Fi.
Yeah.
Yeah, probably not.
But that you just bring your own mobile hotspot, or I guess just
Bring my
don't.
Wi-Fi camera.
Yeah, or just don't dance. You just told the CRTC. Just don't, dance around naked in an Airbnb unless you have scanned it for cameras. You can buy, if you want to be real paranoid, just because we might as well talk about it. If you want to be super paranoid, you can get a camera detector, right? It's basically like a red lens that you look through, and it's got like a light in it, and you scan it around the room, and any camera lenses will kind of reflect a little point of light in the red lens, and so you'll see if there are cameras in the room. Yeah, usually they're attached to bug sweeper tools where it's an extracting antenna thing, and it just makes beepy sounds if you get close to sources of like radio wave emissions and things.
Like it's really popular for people to like rent cottages or whatnot, like in remote areas where owners probably aren't close by. So yeah. I mean, on the one hand, people want to protect their properties, but that's the big invasion of privacy right there.
Totally. These things. You can buy these, right?
Wow, that's not as fancy as that.
It's not. They're cheap. Right in the middle is that like red lens where you would look through. Like this is an expensive one. Like that's $80, but like there's like $10 ones. Here, look at this guy, $25.
1 star.
Oh, this doesn't even have. Oh, yeah, no, it's got the red lens right there.
But it's got 1 star.
Is that not a button?
It's got 1 star.
Is it a button? It's got a hidden camera detector. That's what that is. It's just a really bad picture. Yeah.
I like the little socket stuck on.
Right? Yeah, that's nice. So now you can just instead buy one of these things and bring it to every hotel and sit there like scanning the rooms for. Yeah.
But yeah, on that address, they sell screws
Yeah.
that have the camera.
Nice.
That's all quality.
Nice. Okay. 'Tis the time of year to do your taxes, so 'tis the time of year for fishers to tell everybody, hi, I'm the CRA, you didn't do your taxes, send us money. So remember to remind all your friends and family that around this time of year, everyone's going to be trying to fish them for tax money. I feel it's I feel it's just a public service announcement we need to do every year around tax time to remind people that this happens a lot, like a lot.
Yep. But it's also cool that if the web page would crash or break, they would redirect to Google or some other web page that so they could monetize them on the redirection.
Nice.
So like an added little bonus
backup
there.
Yeah, no, it's
So,
really good. Your turn.
Anyone applying to co-op locations like we all have? Well, great news. You'll reach more and more people. Oh boy. So yeah, so apparently in Elasticsearch and MongoDB, a few Elasticsearch and MongoDB databases have been left open to the internet, and so a lot of information has been exposed, such as current salary, career, so a lot of various information like that.
Everything you need to fish someone.
Yeah, they say more than they say about 500,000 resumes were included in this,
Half a
but
billion.
they didn't. 500 million?
That's a lot.
Yeah, 500 million. Oh, okay. I just keep getting better with English.
That's okay.
And, so yeah.
Awesome. That's great news. Yeah. So, sucks to be that 500 million people.
Wouldn't those Chinese recruitment firms be having all that data in China though? Wouldn't they be protected from the Chinese?
I don't know.
But this wasn't from a single company. It was from multiple companies.
All using the same database.
Yep, all using the same database.
So the first in a couple of Facebook stories for this week. So I guess reset your Facebook data breach calendar. 500 million records left exposed on an AWS share. The interesting part though is apparently AWS and Facebook are having a bit of a public beef over whose fault this was, which is what that story is about.
It wasn't Facebook's fault because it's third-party data that
Yeah.
was being scraped off Facebook.
Yeah, and AWS claims all the buckets are secured by default. You have to open holes in them, right? That's the claim. Devs failed to lock down their database, I guess. So not great. So I mean, I guess you don't have to pay for Facebook data anymore. You just look for all the breaches, which is great. Like I said, they're having a public argument with Amazon over whose bad that was. We can have opinions. This one though is the crazier one. I guess for some users, like I could try to defend like why they were asking for this, but like on one of the sign-up portals, I guess it would ask you for your email address because you need an email address to sign up, and the password for that email account. Sorry, what? Like you want my Gmail and you want the password for my Gmail as part of my Facebook sign-up process?
Supposedly for when you're using Yandex or Zoho, like
Yeah.
third-party.
But
verify that you are you.
Yeah,
but no.
Like they already do the whole like making you send your ID, and if they like flag your account,
Yeah.
like a fake name.
Yeah.
Like how is
A
this?
fake. I know. We already have all your other stuff, but we want to read your email too.
I feel like they already have my email password.
Probably.
Yeah.
Probably.
But yeah, the reason
Yeah, at
was
least they're-
because they wanted to get your friend contact or friend contact.
Yeah, your contact list. Yeah. To ask them to join Facebook because like none of your friends are on it. Like,
Send that email from
Yeah.
your account.
oh, true. Ah. They got in a lot of trouble over that one. Everyone was like, "What the shit, Facebook?" Mm.
Everyone's desensitized. So
Yeah.
No.
Apache, which actually is where its name came from. The people that developed it initially, they called it just a little Apache web server or Apache little web server, so it turned into Apache. But there was a great big vuln in it. Do you want to talk about this one? I mean,
Sure.
It's cool.
Yeah. So basically, when the Apache batch processes would start, they would restart. They wouldn't check permissions, so malicious batch process could start up and escalate its privileges because there was no bounce checking. So that's the root of the problem. And so they're going to be releasing a release, or they've released.
they have already released.
They have already released a patch. So yep.
The potential impact is that if you say you run a website where other users are allowed to upload scripts or modify scripts in any way, which we might say, well, that sounds crazy in the first place, but say I run, sorry, I'm chewing, I'm terrible. If I run a website where I host WordPress blogs for people, but they only have access to their own WordPress account, to manipulate like the templates, for example, that WordPress uses, you write PHP. That means you're writing some sort of script that runs on my server. But the problem is that normally I would downgrade your permissions by having you run with the same permissions as the web server, which is usually either the user called nobody or www-data, which doesn't have a login shell, doesn't really have a home folder. So if you compromise that account, you can't do much. But the problem with this vulnerability is that because of the lack of permissions checking, you were actually able to run scripts that would then elevate you to root on that server. So now all the people that I host WordPress blogs for can potentially take over my server as root. That's the big impact. So all of the stuff like
Rackspace.
Rackspace, and I'm guessing like DreamHost or GatorHost. Maybe not like the VPN or the VPS providers, but people who sell just WordPress accounts, right? Like GatorHost and stuff like that. So, but yeah, not a good. Definitely a bad. Patch Apache if you have it. Eva, who goes by EvaSide normally on the Twitters, is determined to eradicate what they call either stalkerware or spouseware or spyware. Basically apps that a significant other would install on a phone to keep track of someone because they don't trust them. First off, you have a troubled relationship if that's the thing that you're considering doing. But obviously, they're horrible apps, right? They're just there to collect data on the person whose phone it is, like keystrokes and pictures and screen recordings and contacts, and send it all back to somebody else. It's a pretty scuzzy industry. But she proposed and is going to continue to propose a solution for combating that industry. Because her big question was, why doesn't antivirus flag this stuff? They're not doing a good enough job to detect these behaviors and these apps and that kind of stuff. So she's trying to push it so that I think actually Kaspersky was already sort of on board with her and saying that they were going to work with her and try to help that, but to try to help identify and flag that stuff so that people aren't exposed. Yeah, good idea.
Right.
Yeah. This one?
Which one? Oh, the swatting?
Yep.
Okay. So, yeah, so they caught... Actually, I don't know much about it.
Yeah, no worries. So this person was responsible for what ended up being a fatal swatting, where the person that got swatted died because of the way the cops acted. So half responsible. The other half would be, the police officer that killed the person. But got caught, got convicted for 20 years for that. So, good, I guess. Yeah, that's good. So don't swap people because it's a horrible thing. That's all. Basically, update on that one because I think when it first happened, I think we talked about it at a club meeting that somebody had died as a result of swatting. Because, when a SWAT team busts down a door, they will shoot at a lot of stuff. I guess some of that being.
It's a really intense situation for them because they're not sure. They have to respond as if it's a real incident.
Yep.
And also it's hard to catch these people because they can use. Covering technologies like an IP, like a virtual phone number, and do all that kind of stuff. So
agreed. By the way, there's a lot of good advice out there on what to do if you think that someone's going to try to swat you. So, for example, if you're like some kind of Twitch streamer who has a lot of people that don't like you, odds are you're probably going to get swatted at some point. So generally, the advice is actually to alert your local police that it's very likely that someone might call this in on you, and they can at least take some information from you and talk to you about it and stuff like that, so that if that call comes in, they'll know to maybe try contacting you first, or they can take some sort of other steps that's not immediately breaking down your door and maybe shooting you. Because there's a lot of people that's happened to, so they've come out with some procedures to address this and suggestions for people. So a good thing to look into if this is a thing that you're going to get targeted with. I'm still waiting to fail someone on a midterm and get swatted from it. Hasn't happened yet. That's a good thing.
There was a 2 million customer credit cards stolen online from a shop.
A number of shops.
Yeah, a number of shops.
Yep.
Well, it was a chain, a restaurant chain.
Okay.
I believe it was an American one.
Yeah, so there's what you would call a kind of a hospitality parent company that owns stuff like Buca de Beppo and the Earl of Sandwich and some of the Planet Hollywoods and a few other kind of food chains, some that you'd find in a food court, some are more sit-down restaurants, stuff like that. They had a big card data breach. And
it was kind of interesting how they mentioned Joker Stash as a website that they used, and how they would use code names tied to specific merchant breaches. So just to, it kind of have a bit of an anonymity, and then how they tracked it down. It's an interesting article how they identified what chain it was by using zip codes that were in the data provided. So yeah.
Yeah, like what they're talking. So this would have been the posting if you wanted to buy this data breach. So what they tend to tell you, like in this sort of summary here, if you've never read one of these, is so sort of the coverage of the credit cards. So basically they're saying they have credit cards from people in 40 different US states, and from the EU, Asia, and Arab countries. Different bins and TR1 and TR2 dumps indicate sort of how much of the card data that they would have. I don't know all of the terminology that they use, but some of it would suggest that like they're, some of them are high value cards, some of them are low value cards, whether or not they have the CCV number on the back, what the expiries are like, which vendors the cards are with. So like, if they're Visas, if they're MasterCards, which banks they're with. They categorize all that stuff, right, when they put these blocks up for sale, because some cards are sort of, I don't know if I was going to like buy stolen credit cards. Some are better for me to buy than others, right? Like if I can get one that has a much higher credit limit, for me as bad guy, that's more bang for my buck if I'm paying, like $5, $2 or whatever for card numbers and stuff. Yep. So,
and also staying with the theme, they mentioned that repeated buyers are able to identify from specific batches, and it's also batches, like they would collect a group of them and then they post them. So yeah, it's a bit of it just kind of went into how they organized the sale. Yeah.
Yeah, it's cool, and like they have feedback systems and rating systems for all this kind of stuff. So you can vote on who has the best stolen credit cards and things like that. And like maybe you get discounts if you're a returning customer. There's neat numbers out there on this if you dig into it a little bit, like how much somebody would pay for a complete set of PII for a Canadian versus an American versus a European. How much your frequent flyer points are worth and what tier of frequent flyer you're at. Like if you're a Star Rewards like 300,000 level member, that goes for a certain amount because bad guy wants to book a hotel in your name and get free upgrades and stuff like that. Like all of that is for sale. And whenever you can find talks and presentations on that, it's really interesting. Hey, another remote code execution in the plugin for WebEx. This happens like once every 2 years where, because if you're going to use WebEx, you have to install the plugin so it plays nice with your browser and stuff like that. But they keep finding remote code executions in them, so that sucks. There's another one.
Is there an alternative to using?
Don't use WebEx.
Don't use WebEx.
Yeah. Yeah. I liked Google Hangouts. But, is that still existing now that they shut down Google+? Is Hangouts still there? Pardon me?
They shut down Allo, like a different messaging service Google started.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
It's still a thing.
I thought that Hangouts was going to go away once they shut down Google+. So no, it's still around? That's good. It's nice. Because fair enough. Because, of the free ones, it's probably my favorite, like, free kind of, call-in tool.
It's their Skype solution for their G Suite. So
yeah.
It's not
Oh, okay, that's fair. Good. Well, that's good to know. Yeah. You want to talk about this one? Did you read this?
So basically, the shooter, he posted a manifesto, and it's been unfortunately spreading around the internet. And so someone decided to put it with malware that would attack the master boot record and would delete the hard drive and would wipe the hard drive, and leave a unpleasant message, which varied. So it's like this is not us and stuff like that. So yeah.
Your computer is now stoned. All right.
It's an interesting approach to it. Yeah,
interesting ethics question. So yeah, like when we were saying the terrorist, the shooter from New Zealand, that one, and because New Zealand banned the manifesto from this person, right? And they're trying to stop the spread of it because I guess it's pretty toxic. But so somebody bundling it with malware, I guess, is trying to poke at people who maybe want to read this as some sort of ethical kickback against them, I guess, but pretty questionable from an ethics standpoint. Because what if I'm some sociologist doing research on this and I want to, discover the kinds of issues that crazy person was talking about, and I would, download it just for academic sake, and then it would write my MBR, overwrite my MBR, and that's it.
Well, the messages kind of say it's kind of the same people supposed to be targeted.
Is it? Is that what "This Is Not Us" would mean in that context? or is
No,
it?
it wouldn't
It's like
be.
they're still trying to go through the meme format, so it might be like the same people with the same ideology, just screwed around.
Could be, yeah.
Because it's not just only like white supremacists; it's also like people who are like idiots and assholes.
Yeah. Also, there's that. That's a big group of people, though. That's
Yeah.
like
So they could just be doing this to
most of the
themselves.
internet. Yeah, fair enough. Fair enough. Interesting. So I guess that's a good sub headline. Like, be careful what you download. Malware's everywhere.
Counter hacking, I guess. So espionage. So
Yep.
yeah.
The Brits just ripped on Huawei for really bad code practices, apparently, in a lot of their products and services and stuff, claiming, like, one of them was really, oh god, how did I get? So they were doing analysis on a lot of the products and basically finding that there was like 70 different versions and copies of like OpenSSL in their firmware. Like, the way their report on it reads is that they basically have this like shoddy dev environment, and once something works, they're like, sweet, don't clean it up because it works, so just take that and put it in routers and put it in stuff because it works and it's stable, but they left all the other crap in there. So apparently they're just full of holes. This one was the worst. So I assume everybody's really good at C, so you know what this means. So
Absolutely.
with a define like this, you're creating a macro called safe library memcopy. So basically you're kind of redefining this function call whenever you see it. So when someone tries to use the safe version of memcopy, this macro changes it and replaces it with the insecure version of memcopy. That's what it did. Because, like, I don't know, maybe like the secure version broke their routers or something, so they macroed replacements so that if you actually wrote secure code, it would replace it with the insecure version. Like, that is some sketch crap. And they're pretty sure none of this is like, they said in the report somewhere, they're like, no, we don't think this was an attempt to like backdoor stuff. This is just really shitty dev. That's so awesome. Good.
Oh, boy.
Sick. So just because the company that makes a lot of money makes hardware doesn't mean it's good, I guess, is the moral here.
It's
Or
also
write good software.
Because their hardware's cheaper.
Yeah. Yeah, so just make it work. I don't care. Throw all the versions of OpenSSL until it works. Just make it work and sell lots of them. Like, goodness
Just 'cause
gracious.
it's cheaper doesn't mean it's better.
Yeah.
So, I missed this one.
Yeah, no worries. So I guess Office Depot was telling people when they brought their computers in for servicing, oh, you have the malware. You're going to have to pay us to remove the malware. Or at least some of the chains, maybe. We're doing this. So they got fined for doing this. So
Did they actually say that the customer had malware, or did they just say, like, we definitely need this scan?
tricking customers into believing they had malware. So, I mean, I guess after this health checkup, they would say, well, it appears you might need this for your computer. Does your computer have any of the following? And then I guess you might have malware, and that's why we're going to charge you for the scan. Yeah.
It's like downloading advanced system care, and it tells you you have too many problems with the computer by now.
Yeah. Yeah. It's basically like one of those tech support scams that you get in pop-up windows where they're like, your machine's broken, just call us and we'll fix it. That's not great. So bad on that. Asus. Anybody got an Asus laptop? So
Oh,
yeah.
no, laptop.
Okay. Or computer.
They've done like some free Mac
Yeah.
scans.
Yeah. I've got one. I just never run the update tool. But I guess their update tool got hacked, so it was pushing out basically malicious updates that someone could use to then like backdoor your machine. People got upset about this. Some people were like, turn off updates. No, that's stupid. Never turn off updates. This is like so rare that this happens. Leave updates on. Don't turn off updates just because this happened. It'll get fixed. It'll be fine. Updates are more important than this. But anyways, it happened. Not good. I don't know.
So it's just on the laptop division or motherboards as well?
Probably. Well, I mean, they said their update tool, Asus notebooks. So
okay.
I guess laptops. Yeah. So you're good.
Fair enough.
Yeah, you're good if you got a motherboard. I guess.
Perfect. I'm
Yeah.
sorry.
No, you're fine.
Still.
Awesome.
For now.
Okay. So that's the news. I guess we'll do the club elections now.
Yep.
I'm gonna turn off the stream. Oh, look at this! I get a graph now and shit. This is
wow.
There's like 10 people watching. I'm sure 3 of them are in this room. That's cool. Yeah, cool. Look at,
Whoever it is, you're hiding it really well.
I guess there's maybe I offended somebody Like piss somebody off there. I guess. Analysis. This is how we do analysis in the real world, everybody. I guess. In stream. Are you sure? Yeah, real.